Most people think learning is about willpower, forcing yourself to memorize facts, sitting for hours, fighting boredom. But is sheer discipline really the best way to get smarter? Let's flip that around. There's a molecule in your brain that can make learning almost addictive. Not because it feels easy, but because something inside craves the process itself. That molecule is dopamine. You've heard it blamed for making us crave junk food and social media. But what if I told you dopamine is actually essential for turning learning from a chore into a thrill? Why would a chemical reward system evolved for survival run our study sessions? Maybe because learning itself is the ultimate survival tool. Dopamine's real power isn't pleasure for its own sake. It's motivation toward what your brain decides is important. When you unlock something new, dopamine fires. But here's the twist. Dopamine isn't released when you achieve something. It surges most when you anticipate reaching a goal or sense you're making progress, not just at the finish line. That's why setting tiny milestones works. Each mini-win, each flash of understanding gives you a hit. The anticipation itself is the reward pipeline. In the 1990s, neuroscientists recorded monkeys' brains while they learned to press levers for a treat. Dopamine spiked not when they got the reward, but right when the pattern clicked. So, dopamine isn't about the outcome. It's about signaling, hey, pay attention. Something valuable is happening. That signal rewires your brain to remember the new pattern. It's why video games suck us in for hours. They're dopamine machines. Challenge, feedback, streak, level up, another challenge. But we can hijack that same system for real-life learning. But if dopamine makes learning easier, does that mean we can learn anything by just making it fun? Not exactly. Too much dopamine, in the wrong context, turns motivation into distraction. Researchers call this the Goldilocks zone. Not too little, not too much. Boredom means not enough dopamine. Overstimulation means your brain starts to chase novelty instead of meaning. So, getting learning right isn't about pure grit or pure fun. It's about tuning your dopamine just so your mind is alert but not overwhelmed. Let's see how this works in real classrooms. In 2021, a study split students into two groups. One got quizzes with instant feedback, the other read silently. Guess which group retained twice as much over a month? The catch? Even students who struggled at first, if they kept getting small bits of feedback, stuck with it longer. Dopamine said, there's a win ahead, keep going. And outside school, the principle's the same. Want to learn a language? Break it into micro lessons. Each time you unlock a phrase, dopamine gives a nudge. Do another one. Even babies show this pattern. When a baby babbles and hears a happy parent reaction, dopamine surges, wiring the urge to try again and again. What about mistakes? Dopamine actually spikes when a prediction is slightly wrong but fixable. That almost but not quite is irresistible for the brain's reward circuits. It's why we stick with hard video game bosses or tough math puzzles. Failure that's just within reach of success keeps us hooked, refining our mental models. But here's where it flips. If there's no hope of progress, dopamine drops, and motivation vanishes. The challenge has to feel achievable, or the brain just checks out. This gives us a hack. Break anything overwhelming into parts so small, each one comes with its own built-in dopamine hit. Curiously, clinical studies show people with low dopamine, like in early Parkinson's or certain types of depression, report the world suddenly feels gray and all motivation to learn disappears. So, is dopamine cheating? Not really. In fact, it's the main line between what you remember deeply and what you forget the next day. One reason, dopamine tags new learning as important. Your brain literally treats what sparks dopamine as worth storing and dumps the rest during sleep. It's not just humans. Songbirds learning to sing show bursts of dopamine after copying a new tune correctly. That dopamine jolt prunes neural circuits, perfecting the song with each try. Too little dopamine and nothing sticks. Too much and your brain might start to overconnect things, seeing patterns where there are none, like in mania or certain psychosis. Real learning, then, is about balance. Curiosity meets challenge. Dopamine is your mind's signal that you're on the right track, but only if challenge and curiosity mingle just right. So next time you can't focus, try this. Tweak the challenge, split the task, create a feedback loop, and watch your brain's own chemistry kickstart momentum. There's even evidence novelty is a special dopamine cue. Ever feel energy spike when learning something radically new? That's your brain's way of saying, store this. It could be useful. The trick is, novelty fades. That's why sustained learning needs regular progress pings. Little signs you're leveling up, not just wandering in circles. So, why does dopamine-fueled learning beat grit and grind? Because it turns effort into a compulsion, the kind you want more of, and that's when growth ignites. The real lesson isn't just chemistry. It's signaling. Knowing how your brain craves progress lets you craft environments where learning feels like a game, not a slog. At the end of the day, dopamine isn't the shortcut. It's the spark plug. Learning that sticks is learning that excites, even when it's tough, even when progress feels slow. So, next time you want to remember something, reward the process, not just the outcome. Give your brain a path of small wins to chase, one dopamine drop at a time. Maybe the true superpower isn't willpower, but knowing how to make curiosity loop back on itself so each lesson pulls you to the next. We tend to underestimate what drives us, but if you tune into how progress feels, tiny bursts, tiny discoveries, you might find learning starts to feel, well, a little bit magical. In the end, dopamine-fueled learning isn't a trick. It's how we're built. Knowing that is half the battle. The rest is making it work for you. So, what small change could you try this week to spark your next dopamine-powered breakthrough? Because whether you're studying, practicing a skill, or just figuring out life, the real boost isn't out there somewhere. Turns out, your brain's built-in chemistry is waiting for a reason to fire. Learning, says dopamine, is less about struggle and more about the next tiny win. That's the cheat code hidden where you least expect it, inside your own head.